Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another episode of Group Chat, and we are starting off today's episode with an incredible interview with Brent Saunders.
Everyone should pay attention to this interview because it's the most honest and informed conversation you can have about COVID, the vaccine, where we are today, where we need to get to, and how do we get there.
I mean, if you don't understand the vaccine and what its purpose is in our society after this conversation, you should give up. And I'm not saying give up listening to this podcast. I'm saying give up on everything.
Unsubscribe.
I mean, the podcast is the first thing you should give up, but everything else you should give up as well. And, you know, a very interesting conversation because we start on the vaccine topic and then we talk about Miami and the business opportunities in Miami and what that means for work from home and different industries. There's a lot. It's just a very well-informed conversation. You don't want to miss it. And then we jump right in to, I think, the must-have item of the Christmas season.
Yes.
If you're looking to build a Christmas list, this has to be on top of it. Yep. Otherwise, you are poor. Sorry.
Irrelevant.
And irrelevant.
So,
This is why James Harden is giving this rapper a particular gift, because he wants to stay relevant. That's also going to be a hot topic for us. And then we dive into real estate purchases, some mega real estate purchases, and Nielsen ratings. You forgot about them. You know why? Because no one watches TV anymore. And they have finally decided to update their technology, except it's going to take 4 more years.
And we found out what a 40-year-old D, if he was making $70 million a year, would do for little baby.
Yeah. Wah, wah, wah. Little baby.
Nice.
And don't forget, on Monday, December the
18th.
18th.
14th.
No, 14th.
Nice.
Cut that. Start that over.
Yeah.
Get in there. You throw it to me. I got nervous.
And don't forget, on December the
14th.
we have the second annual Group Chat Awards, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Times. We are going to be announcing some big winners like Entrepreneur of the Year, Stock of the Year, Person of the Year,
Investor of the Year.
Investor of the Year. These are big awards.
Yes.
And it will be live on Twitch.
Yes. Twitch.tv/groupchatpod.
There you go. And don't forget Modern Prescription. They had a big episode with Logan Paul's orthopedic surgeon. This guy looks like a big guy.
Yeah. He's huge.
He's a huge
So do you
guy.
think Logan can beat Floyd now?
I'm feeling confident after hearing about from the surgeon.
Yeah.
Because we know we can repair him up if he gets beaten down too bad. So check out Modern Prescription. Deepak and Jeff for doing a great job over there. So we'll post the link of this episode. Let's get into it, guys.
Cash.
Ladies and gentlemen, Group Chat.
Cash.
It's $1 trillion. Hot.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another episode of Group Chat, and we're kicking it off with a very special guest that actually joined us, I think, like 2 months ago.
Seems like October, I think.
October. And Brent Saunders is back. He's the former CEO of Allergan and Forest Labs and Bausch Loam. Really funny story. Bausch Loam, I have an amazing childhood story of. I used to play basketball growing up, and Bausch Loam used to sponsor NBA halftime. And they used to call it Court Vision. And I used to call myself playing basketball Bausch Loam because I had Court Vision. And granted, on the basketball courts, no one knew what I was talking about. But that was something that I always said.
I don't think you were picked first if you're calling yourself Bausch Loam.
No.
So I want to start with something that stuck with me after the last time we chatted. You were pretty confident that we would be at live sporting events. I remember asking you, will I be able to see LeBron James at Staples Center next year? And you confidently said yes. I think you knew the vaccine was coming.
I had a pretty good feeling we'd save that, or multiple vaccines, but I
I don't know, ask Bausch Loam what he thinks.
I mean, I'm, it's interesting because there's been so much, obviously, daily updates on the vaccine. There's so much controversy on the vaccine with a portion of the audience of America that is obviously excited and willing to take it. And there's a portion of people that believe Bill Gates is going to put a microchip in all of us. So, those people are hard to convince. So let's just leave them out. For those of us who are interested in the vaccine, given what we know now, and I've read a little bit about the side effects, like, does your comfort level, because you were very confident that you would take the first iteration of the vaccine. Do you still feel that way?
I do. And first, I would just say from a public health perspective, we should end the conspiracy theories and encourage everyone to get the vaccine. But I understand the reality of convincing some of these people is almost impossible. But there is no conspiracy theory. There are multiple vaccines being developed here by multiple different companies, run by independent boards, reviewed by multiple government agencies. And I promise you, Bill Gates is not putting a microchip in any. Damn it. Put that aside.
Put that aside.
Look, I think, it's interesting. So we've heard a lot about the vaccines, in particular the two RNA vaccines, one from Pfizer, one from Moderna, and then the one being developed in the UK by AstraZeneca and Oxford. The two, I guess, quote, US vaccines look really good, Pfizer and Moderna. 95%-ish efficacy. That is off the charts. There are no vaccines with that kind of efficacy. The flu vaccine, which we're all probably pretty familiar with, runs, every year, give or take a few percentage points, around 50% efficacy.
Wow.
So you're talking about something that's truly remarkable from an efficacy perspective. From a safety perspective, we knew there was nothing serious. That came through in the initial release of data. But we learned a whole lot more just this morning in the FDA briefing documents, because the FDA will be holding, which is fairly typical, an advisory committee on Thursday with independent doctors and scientists to review the data and hopefully approve it thereafter or on Friday. So that's kind of like what's happening this week. So it's a big week for the U.S. for potential approval of one or two of the vaccines. And when you look at the safety data that was released this morning, and I haven't gone through it as thoroughly as I will over the next 24 hours, it looks pretty darn safe. Most common side effect is site reaction, which means you get a little pain wherever the needle went in.
Yeah.
Pretty common with a shot. If you've taken in the HPV shot, which many women, I guess, and boys now take, or kids, teenage kids take, that looks like it's a lot more painful there than this is even close to. So it's not in that neighborhood. And then the other one is a little fatigue for a day or two. But we all get tired. So I think that's a price to pay. Look, if you could put this thing behind us and we can open up society and we can get schools open again and people back to work and kind of, the normal fabric of society functioning again.
Yeah.
A little site reaction and perhaps a day of fatigue isn't a lot to ask for.
And so if you were to get the vaccine tomorrow, would you be comfortable for you to resume all activities you were doing pre-pandemic?
No.
Okay, got it. Okay, so how do you proceed post getting a vaccine?
Yeah, so the way these vaccines appear to work, and again, there's more data coming out daily, and we'll figure it out, is really to get full immunity from COVID will take around 28 days. So you take the vaccine tomorrow, and then you have to go back on the 21st day for a booster, and then about 7 days post-booster, you'll have that 95% efficacy. That being said, in the briefing documents that I was looking at this morning, you do start to develop a good amount of immunity on day 14. And so even the flu vaccine works that way. You don't get the flu vaccine and then walk out and from CVS and have immunity. The way these things work is they trigger your body to develop your own antibodies, right, that fight viruses. Your body doesn't do that in one day. It sometimes takes 2 or 3 weeks. And in this case, they obviously believe you need a booster shot to finish that, think about, you got to go to the gym for a month to get muscles, right? You're not going to just go to the gym once and be fit. You're going to go to the gym for a month and be fit. It's the same thing with your immune system. It needs some time to exercise to develop the antibodies that it needs to fight the virus.
So does that mean on day 29 you're comfortable?
Yes.
Got it. Okay. So you would be comfortable going back to like complete previous lifestyle after that 28 days has passed?
Yes, but what would make me even feel better is if everybody else did it, because then we would eradicate it.
Got it.
Right. Could you talk a little bit about the production of the vaccine? Because there's news all over the place that is there 100 million doses ready? I saw Joe Biden just said 100 million doses in the first 100 days. And I feel like information's kind of all over the place. If you could just help us understand what your understanding of where we are in the production cycle.
Yeah, it is. It's a bit complicated because I think what we know is Pfizer, which was the first to present data, has about 100 million doses, but it's a 2-dose vaccine, as I just described. It's the 1 dose and then the booster on day 21. So that means that's enough for 50 million people in this first tranche. Moderna, I don't think has put out the numbers yet, but I assume they have 20 to 30 million doses. What's coming next, whether we approve the AstraZeneca one or Johnson & Johnson has theirs approved, or Merck has their approved, and there are 5 or 6 others in final stages. It's certainly possible by the time President-elect Biden takes office in late January, we could have line of sight to, a few 100 million doses of vaccine. But I don't think today we know enough to say that that's a reality.
And can you walk us through everything I've kind of read about Moderna? Is that there was like a real vaccine breakthrough in how quickly they mapped out the vaccine once they got their hands on the virus. I read a New York Magazine article the other day that said within 48 hours they were able to map that out. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that's directionally correct. I didn't read that specific article, but look, what both Pfizer and Moderna did is groundbreaking science. I mean, I know everybody loves to hate pharmaceutical companies, and I understand and am empathetic why they do. But thank God this country has these companies that can do this groundbreaking science and take a vaccine, a virus that's plaguing America, right, and shutting down our country, and create a vaccine in unheard. I mean, this is like Nobel Award-winning kind of work, and there'll be several other companies that do just the same over the next several weeks. So the fact that this entire infrastructure turned on a dime and was able to sequence this virus and produce a vaccine using the most modern science and technology possible is spectacular. It's unprecedented. Never seen it in science before. So this is truly groundbreaking science. It's amazing.
And do you think, as just obviously you're an insider in that world, but you're also, just a citizen as well. Do you feel that the communication to the public has been strong or weak on all this information?
I think it's been weak, but I think the problem is the system, right? So the rules and regulations that govern what the manufacturer or the science-based company, the biopharmaceutical company can do and say are really restrictive. So remember, if for example, Pfizer, we'll use them as an example, they can't do anything that's considered promotional until they have an FDA approval. That's against the law for them.
Got it.
And what they're allowed to disclose is based on what both the FDA or other government regulatory agencies allow them to disclose, and what the SEC as a publicly traded company allows them to disclose. The last thing is, remember, most of these studies are placebo-controlled studies. And so if you start to release, which means that there's a sham, right? Somebody's getting saline and someone's getting a virus. And under the laws of doing placebo-controlled studies, which is the absolute gold standard for clinical studies, you can't bias the study by putting out interim results, particularly something that would be covered by the media, because then people will say, hey, my vaccine hurt, or my vaccine, I felt immune. So you can't bias the study is what it's called. And so, to do the appropriate work, which is what we all ultimately want, because we want a safe and effective solution here, requires you to be kind of quiet and mysterious in a way. And it seems shady, and it seems like it's not appropriate. But, we've never had to make the sausage, if you will, in public. We've been doing it this way as an industry forever, because those are the rules and convention and laws of the land. But now everybody wants to follow it, right? You're seeing the sausage made in real time. You're seeing real science, trial and error, hydrochloroquine, does it work, doesn't work. You're seeing all the things that happen in medicine that have happened for everything. But now we're just doing it under the microscope of an intense media focus.
And do you think, and I'm kind of being funny, but I'm also kind of being serious, do you think Bill Gates should stop talking about taking the vaccine, considering all the conspiracies? Because every day I get an alert that Bill Gates is disappointed on how United States is handling the coronavirus. And sadly, there is a big portion of the population that actually believes this, because I search it on Twitter every day. It's insane.
And Reddit's worse.
Reddit's way worse. So it's like, how do you could get through to those people? Like, I don't even understand. Like Bill Gates, I literally want to go to, if I was advising Bill Gates, I'm like, yo, bro, shut the fuck up. Just like for a month, don't say a word.
Look, I mean, Bill Gates has done a lot to promote public health, particularly outside the United States. I agree, because he's caught up through no fault of his own in this conspiracy theory. He should be silent. The flip side is, you wish you had a more trusted spokesperson for our government that could talk about the safety and the need and what's actually really happening here, because it's pretty damn cool science. But we don't have that person. We don't have an elected official on either side of the aisle that can do that today. And, maybe it's Dr. Fauci, but, there's probably as many people who don't like Dr. Fauci that do like him. We're such a divided country at this point. But you wish there was, I thought one of the strongest statements I saw was President Obama, President Clinton, and President Bush saying that they would get the vaccine live on TV. I thought that was pretty cool. And I think, like ABC and NBC and CBS and Fox should all cut. It's going to take 30 seconds to do this, but there should be like a 1 minute at all TV. Watch these 3 ex-presidents get the vaccine.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it crazy? I think that's amazing too, but that's where we're at as a society, that we have to get 3 presidents that clearly speak to 3 different demographics to convince people to take something that would literally save their life and save our country.
But I mean, it's necessary, because I think there's a large portion of people that have already gotten COVID that still have antibodies that think they don't need to get the vaccine.
So that's a great question.
Right.
A lot of my friends have gotten it, and they're like, what do I need the vaccine for?
Well, they do need the vaccine. And while they may not be in the first or second priority group, depending on when they had COVID, the one thing we do know that for the vast majority of people, not everybody, but for the vast majority of people, your antibodies from a COVID infection wane over time. And for some people, that's 3 or 4 months, and some people it's 6 or 9 months. But it doesn't appear that virtually anybody has them forever. There are always exceptions in science. So look, if your friend had COVID a month ago, are they protected now? Yeah, they're probably protected. Will they be protected into the winter? Yes, but come spring or summer, they're going to need to be thinking about the vaccine again. And so, we just don't know enough to say that with any precision when their protection goes away, unless they measure their antibodies on a regular basis.
So if I have a wealthy friend that sends in a text message, hey, don't worry about the vaccine, I got you in a couple of weeks. How is someone like, I have this, I'm pretty sure just like everything else in life, there will be vaccines for the 1%ers available. And I don't know how it happens, but I have a feeling that will happen. How do people make the decision on whether taking those or not? And how does someone acquire that?
Yeah, well, I would say a couple things. First, and I guess I'm in the 1%ers, so I would say this to my friends. The first wave of vaccines should go to the most vulnerable. And so if you're a 1%er and the most vulnerable, you've got a comorbidity, you're older, you're a healthcare worker, whatever it may be, to put you in that first wave. Well, I guess I do what you need to do, right? But not the ideal situation. Second, I would say, the Pfizer vaccine in particular has to be handled with great care at sub-zero temperatures and dry ice. And so I would be very cautious about getting that outside of the distribution channel it was intended to be in, because any mishandling will destroy the efficacy of that vaccine. And so if someone's giving that to you in their house, there's no one I know that has a house that's equipped to store those kind of vaccines. You need the special containers, cryo like they use for embryos and things like that. No one has that, or very few people. I don't know anybody who has one in their house. Maybe you do. Maybe in LA, that's a normal thing, but not, not from that. So yeah, I'd be very suspect of that kind of the vaccine in that setting. The Moderna vaccine has a little bit easier storage, so perhaps that one could find its way into a gray market a little differently. But look, I think everyone should reserve this wave for the people who most in need. There will be plenty of these vaccines, plenty of them for everybody who wants them by the spring.
So if you're a 30 to 40-year-old healthy person, are we looking at spring then? Is that April or is that?
I think that's the worst case scenario. I think that's the worst case scenario, because I do think, well, like we were saying earlier, there will be others approved and many are manufacturing at risk. So they have inventory. They just need the approval. And my sense is we'll see others approved in January or February. So you'll see waves of inventory coming into the marketplace to be able to vaccinate everybody, particularly in this country, because they're all being produced by, so far, with the exception of AstraZeneca, which doesn't look as good of a vaccine, by American companies.
Right. As we read about the vaccine and learn about things that we never thought we would be discussing, because we're not in that profession, one thing that consistently has come up is challenge testing. And whether it should be used, I'm not sure if it was used while they were developing the COVID vaccine. Could you, A, just explain what that even means? And B, what are your views on that?
Yeah, so I don't think, again, I'm pretty sure, but I don't believe we did any challenge testing in the US trials. The only place that I saw was with the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine. There was one study where they were doing challenge studies. And so that means to expose people intentionally to live virus and see if they get it after the vaccination. I don't think in today's environment, given how prevalent the virus is, there's no need to do that, because statistically, we know that if you deliver the virus to, let's say, 3,000 people, or the vaccine to 3,000 people, and you give another 3,000 people placebo, there's enough the exposure statistically, just in the basic environment, you'll see the difference in infection rates. When you have something that's very, very rare, when you have a virus that's very, very rare, the only way to do it, because you can never create enough statistical sampling if there wasn't enough active virus just circulating in the community, you'd have to do exposure testing. And so I think you save that for when you really, really need it. You don't need it in this case, so it feels a little unethical to do it.
Got it. Makes sense.
Got it. Yeah, that's really helpful. And I think people have a really hard time understanding the vaccine process and the distribution and why they should take it. So I think this was very helpful in explaining that. So, but I want to shift gears slightly. So you are currently in South Florida, correct?
I am in Miami.
In Miami. Miami has now become like the hottest city in the world for many reasons.
Bausch Loam Jr. moved here.
Yeah, exactly. I'm dying to move there. Trust me. Obviously, I mean, Art Basel is happening or just happened, so that's obviously fantastic. But I think the most interesting thing is the mayor of Miami seems like he's been doing a pretty good job on social media. Of every day you hear some like Silicon Valley founder go on like a horrendous Twitter thread on why they're leaving San Francisco. And then the two destinations seem to be Austin and Miami. And if I was leaving San Francisco, I would definitely go to Miami over Austin personally. But one of the things that I'm curious about is if this shift is really happening where these companies are going to start moving all over the country and Miami being one of those places. Does that like cement that work from home is really the future? And the reason why I'm asking that is I only think San Francisco is San Francisco and the technology hub because of Stanford. If Stanford was located in Austin, Texas, then I think Austin would have been Silicon Valley. And I think the engineers and the talent that's come out of Stanford have really shifted it. Whereas when I think of Miami, no offense to the U, but they're not pumping out like AI engineers of the
good
future.
Football players.
Occasionally a good football player. But like, I just like wonder, like the talent is still in the same places, right? From an educational standpoint. What's your view on that? Because you're obviously building a new business as well. I don't know where that's going to be based out of. I'm just curious on like the view on Miami.
Yeah, look, I think you're right. I think we did this grand experiment of sending everybody home to work and see what happens, right? And it worked better than I think anybody thought it would. But I also think that the work from home thing isn't permanent. But I do think we're not going to go back to where it was. So the pendulum kind of swung this way. I think it's going to settle back to more of a hybrid approach of a couple days in the office or a week, every other week in the office or something like that. Because I do think it's productive for people to know each other, to pop in meetings and whatever, talk in the, on the sofas or in the coffee room or wherever the hell they're doing. And so I think there's still something lost by having everybody work at home, Zooming in or WebExing in. And so that's a good substitute, but it's not as good as the real thing. And so there'll be some balancing and rebalancing that happens. Look, I think Miami is a huge beneficiary because it's got great weather compared to some of these other places, a lower cost of living, hospitable for business environment, a more predictable kind of tax structure and lower tax structure. The culture in Miami is pretty dynamic. You have a lot of foreign influence, a lot of Latin American influence, a lot of, it's not as good as, let's say, New York or perhaps San Francisco, but it's pretty darn close after that. And so it's an interesting place to be. The art museums are getting better. The science museums are getting better. The universities are not as nearly as good as Stanford or Columbia, in those two examples, but they're going in the right direction. At least they're not getting worse. When I went to college, Miami was not a great school. It's a much better school than it is today, but it's got a long way to go to be Stanford for sure. So look, I think things are moving in Miami's way. You have BlackRock coming, you have Goldman Sachs coming here now. You've got a lot of the hedge fund industry has moved to Florida. So the sophistication and culture is adapting to that too. And the thing I always loved about San Francisco or being out your way is if you had a good idea, you could find people to build a business, to start a new company. You could do that in New York City as well. You couldn't have done that in Miami 5 years ago. I think you can today, and that's a big change.
Yeah, that's huge. And what I've noticed on just tech Twitter, because I follow that closely, it's the people that have already made it that are going to Miami and Austin. It's not the young engineer that's still trying to hustle and crush it. So
very valid point.
So I'm curious, in the social circles you run in, as you said, you're 1%er.
Yeah.
The pendulum has swung one way that you're in Miami. Do your friends who have moved to Miami, I'm assuming they're all successful business people, plan to stay post reopening of the world?
Absolutely. Most do. Most have, because, a couple things. One, a lot of them I know, and one is, was just telling me Sunday night that, he came down here to flee with his kids, longtime New Yorker, big business guy in New York City. And he loves the lifestyle, and his kids are healthier. They're outside. They're doing more stuff. Everybody's just a little bit happier here that he's staying here, and he plans to open 8 businesses in Miami over the next 18 months. And he's walking me through it. Eventually there'll be a war for talent, for the young engineers, and maybe they get attracted to this life and they come here, and the cost of living and everything else, or the whole thing implodes and we go back to San Francisco and New York as the hubs. But I wouldn't bet against it on Miami. I think young people will start coming here even if they don't graduate from university here.
And I think that's not necessarily a bad thing for San Francisco either. Dee and I were talking about this yesterday. It'll rejuvenate the city. If all the successful guys who've made it that flee, the city now all of a sudden becomes more affordable. Younger people can come stay in the city, and they can rebuild the culture.
Well, I agree with that. I think, there's a cycle to everything, and no doubt, I spent a lot of time in Palo Alto and that area because I'm on the board of Cisco. The cost of living and the starting wages were just out of control and out of whack, and putting a lot of pressure on anybody who was just trying to make it in this life. So something has to, take some of the air out of the tire and make that part of California more affordable.
I have a great business idea for Miami.
Yeah.
Indian grocery store, Indian restaurants.
Why is that?
Do you want top engineers? You better have their food for them. You're not going to get that because, someone straight out of Hyderabad is not going to Miami without the right restaurants and food set up there. I mean, when you go to Palo Alto, like our cousins live up there, several cousins that work at Amazon and these big companies. I mean, they just bought a house in a gated community, and they said every single person's from the same area in Bangalore that they are from. Not even like they're from India. They're like from the same town.
That's crazy.
And so I think you have to evolve. That's my only...
Or we got to teach you to eat Cuban sandwiches, one or the other.
I mean, the problem is there's a lot of meat there. We're all vegetarian. Yeah, I mean, I saw, speaking of Miami, a friend of mine, John Oranger, who started Shutterstock, I see him, he moved down to Miami from New York, and I see him jet skiing, and he's running his business from there. And I was like, yo, did you move? And he's like, yeah, I'm done. Like, I'm going to live here. I'll fly up when I need to go and handle business. And I think it's interesting because I think the executives can live anywhere.
Yeah.
Where it's unclear to me if the younger talent can live anywhere.
Right.
Well, I think Miami has a shot because, I'm sitting here, and while I'm looking at you guys, I'm looking at the water right behind you.
We're looking at our engineer Pete.
It is just as good of a view.
See the water. Oh wow! You're literally over the water.
Okay, we don't need to see that.
But I was sitting here doing a Zoom meeting, watching dolphins jumping yesterday, and thinking it's not like that. But look, I think in seriousness, Miami is incredibly affordable, though. So, knowing where you guys are at, and if you're a startup, you're at a school, or you're just recently married, or just have 2 young kids, you can get a 1, 2, 3, 4 bedroom at a half the price of what you're paying out your way. So, that's important too. Hopefully that lasts and they keep building affordable housing here. But right now it's a very affordable place.
Got it. And do you feel that like if you were 25 today and you were starting a business in, call it e-commerce, because that's probably most of our audience, does it matter where you live?
I think you guys said it earlier. It matters where can you get the talent to start that business, right? I don't think you don't have to look where the capital is, because capital now is so fluid. I just raised several $100 million for my SPAC on 2 days of Zoom calls. You don't have to go anywhere, and you don't have to be.
You're whale watching.
Wow.
but you do probably need that base of talent, and so. That's why I say Miami's not quite there yet. You could do that in the San Francisco, MSA, and you could do that in the New York probably as well. And there are a few other cities as well. But I think Miami will be there in a year or two.
Got it. So I have one last question, because you're probably the only one capable of actually explaining to our audience the significance of this. And I don't mean to put you on the spot, but AlphaFold and DeepMind. I don't know if you had a chance to dive into that over the last few weeks, but Alphabet, which is Google, announced a medical breakthrough in AlphaFold and mapping out proteins. How significant is this?
Well, I think it's really important. So let me try to think of a good analogy. We mapped, the scientists mapped the human DNA, about 16, 17 years ago. Mm-hmm. We're just starting to see the application of medicines from that, like these two RNA-based vaccines. Like that's the fruit of planting that tree and that discovery. It took about 15, 16 years to really see practical approaches coming from that. The government or DARPA did GPS 20 some years ago. Now we have Google Maps and Waze, and you're right. So there's always a lag period between when the technology comes out and practical applications derive from. I don't think it will take 16 years, because I think like Moore's law, the time is gets faster. But I don't think we're going to see I think it's a significant discovery, and it adds to the literature of science that we have to build cures and treatments for uncurable or untreatable disease and ailments for humans and suffering. But I think the fruits of that are 5 years away, 3 years away, 7 years away. It's still a few years away.
Got it.
That's great. Yeah, we're excited about that, just because we got to meet the founder of DeepMind like 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, probably longer, 6-7 years ago.
And he was talking, when we met him, he was just talking like gibberish. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't even know what language you're speaking.
Only thing I understood was they had 60 PhDs on staff, and they hadn't released a product.
Yeah, I was like, okay, this guy.
I mean, what they did is kind of, it's like the vaccine. That's super science. I mean, those guys, that team deserves tremendous amount of credit, but to turn that into a practical, cure or treatment for someone who's hoping for it is at least few to us several years away.
Sorry, I have one last question from my end.
I have one more question too.
Okay, mine's quick. There's a lot of talk. If you live till 2050, you can live forever, because people think science will be so far advanced. Is there any truth to that?
I would say today, no.
Okay.
The biggest reason we are starting to understand senescence and aging and really understand some of the basics. And one thing we don't understand is how to prevent the brain from aging. And that's why diseases like Alzheimer's are going to be the most prevalent disease around. They're predict by 2050, 1 out of every 2 people will die from Alzheimer's. Right.
Wow.
So, because we're keeping the body healthier along, the brain has to catch up, and we don't even understand yet the genetic cause of Alzheimer's or dementia and how to treat or prevent it. And so when we get that breakthrough, then I'll be more confident about that answer. Just being alive and not having your faculties is not living for real.
Right.
There's some people who work with us are like that. My last question is actually around kind of how we all ended up in this situation to begin with, which, you know, sometime last year, a virus came from Wuhan and exploded all over the world. Why? It feels like there is absolutely no discussion publicly about the origin of this virus. Is it like I'm an extremely liberal person. I voted for Joe Biden, but if I was Donald Trump, I would have made this entire election about we as Americans need to focus on China. And I feel like we're so busy fighting each other, and we've now forgotten how we even got into this place. Like, why is like,
why is China getting a pass? They hid data for weeks. That's been proven.
They hid the whole virus. They mismanaged the whole thing.
I don't understand. Is it because they're such an economic superpower and we rely on them for so much that we have to just shut up and dribble? Or is it like, what's going on here?
I'm going to disagree with you, I guess, because you know, I'm happy that President-elect Joe Biden is moving on. We needed to change, and you know, I think Trump has done some disgusting things as president. And we'll probably get feedback from this that people won't like, because you pay any a compliment and you know, you're going down. And I voted for Joe Biden too, and all that caveats as well. But the one thing that Trump did do that President Obama never did, and I don't think Joe Biden will do after him, was be very tough on China. And when history is written, they'll talk about all the crazy things he did and all the horrible things he said and how he mistreated people and everything else. But the one thing that I think people have to acknowledge was he was very tough on China. And remember, he wanted to call it the China virus.
Mm-hmm. Which I kind of agree. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. And he tried very hard to blame China for it. And people called him xenophobic, and really, you know, a lot of the media came down on him for the way he talked about China and calling it the China virus. And if you go look it up, you'll see how much he tried and how little penetration he had on that China virus thing. So, you know, if anybody tried, he tried. I don't know why people were against it. I think, you know, common convention is to name viruses after where their origin is. You know, Lyme disease is because Lyme disease was first discovered in Lyme, Connecticut. It's not because it's green and tastes sour. It's named after the city in which it was found. Legionnaires' diseases because it was at a Legionnaires' convention. You know, so on and so that is the convention for naming novel viruses. And he tried to do that here, and there was tremendous pushback. So.
Yeah, it's just the histrionics he creates around it that prevented that from happening. And then
and we all understand that, right? It's hard to listen to him, but he did try.
It's hindsight 2020, knowing everything we know about the virus and what works and doesn't work and stopping the spread. What is the biggest thing the U.S. could have done back in March that we would be out of it like some of these other countries? Or do you think the way we live is just impossible? It was going to spread either way.
Yeah, I think we could have done better with masks. You know, I think this politicization of masks, and, you know, it was just ridiculous. The science always supported it. We should have taught people to wear appropriate masks in the right way. There's still too many, you know, masks that don't really work being worn. We could have used a real national spokesperson or perhaps a president that stood up and mandated. We could have provided free masks to all Americans. We spent whatever it was, $6 trillion on pandemic relief between the Congress and the Fed. We could have found enough money in there to send everybody cases of masks in the mail, or have distribution centers where people could get effective masks, not necessarily N95, but certainly N94 or below. And we failed miserably on that. And if I could go back and wave a magic wand or reverse the earth like Superman or something, if we did that one thing, I think we'd be in a bigger, much different position today.
And what do you, sorry, this will be my last question. Do you have a few more minutes? I don't want to take up.
Sure. Yeah.
Cool. So when you're thinking about what's happening in Miami, so like I had a bunch of friends down there for Art Basel. They were at restaurants, they were at 11, they were at all the normal places that we would go if we were out there last weekend. And in LA, we're completely shut down. Do you what are you noticing? Like, does what Miami is doing, is it working? And does it work because of the climate? Is it work because enough people have gotten it? Like, what would you do if you were the mayor of LA, for example?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think, unfortunately, these stay-at-home orders and the things that were happening in LA, unfortunately, impact the most vulnerable the most.
Yep.
Right. And so, the 1% or even the 2%ers, whatever percent you want to pick, can afford to stay home. They can afford to order in on Uber Eats or DoorDash or whatever. They can go on with their lives. They can work remotely on Zoom. But what if you're the waitress, the busboy, the dishwasher, right? What if you're the person managing the movie theater? There's a lot of really hardworking people who need those jobs. And those jobs are really important. And this stop and start, fire and hire, layoff, the small business owners, the impact on them, I think without predictability and without certainty, you're just messing with people's lives and livelihood. And that's a dangerous thing too. And we're going to look back on this period, perhaps 5 years from now, when we have real public health data, not just the COVID data, but real public health data. And we look at what happened to kids who missed the only 2 meals they got at breakfast and lunch was because they went to public school and the public schools closed. People who missed their wellness and vaccination exams, people who missed their mammograms and their colonoscopies and their skin cancer checks. And we're going to see, unfortunately, a huge spike in cancer deaths and other unintended consequences. Layer on top of that all the mental health implications of isolating people and keeping them, from seeing their friends. And, humans are made to be social for the most part. So there are bigger issues at play here. And I think a lot of these decisions are being made in a pure vacuum of how do we stop the virus versus how do we treat the public health of a community.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, what you just said, our mayor is incapable of communicating.
Yeah, it made too much sense.
Yeah, but the problem is, a lot of these mayors say it because they believe they're protecting people. But I think, and look, time will tell. I think they're likely doing more harm over the long term. They're protecting people in it's short-termism, right? They're thinking about the next week or month. They're not thinking about the next 5 years.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time. This is, as always, extremely informational for us and I'm sure our audience.
Thanks a lot. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, great seeing you guys. Love to come back someday.
Yeah, and we'll hopefully see you in Miami soon, as soon as I get this damn vaccine.
Let me know. We'll all vaccinated. We'll all go out.
Our plan is vaccine, Tampa Bay Super Bowl, go to Miami for a few days.
Yeah,
I'd like to do that too.
All right, guys. Thanks you.
Thanks a lot.
Now hold your britches right there. Before you go ahead and touch that little fast forward button, I want you to hear me out because I have some very important information to tell you. And even though I let off with a terrible accent, it does have value. What I'm about to tell you is today's sponsor, and it is none other than our own selves. That's right. If you heard about it in the beginning, I'm going to go a little bit deeper on it, but Group Chat Awards are December 14th, Monday, December 14th, next Monday, 8 p.m. live on Twitch at our Group Chat Pod channel on Twitch. We're going to be going live. The event is going to be nothing shy of amazing. And here's a couple reasons why. Not only am I supposedly going to be coming in a tux, and not only are the awards going to be electrifying, have excitement, entertainment, drinks, giveaways, lots and lots of giveaways, and so much more. We're also going to have special guests, including celebrity DJ Eric Deluxe. Now, Tim, as somebody who is a big fan of people in music, how excited are you for somebody like Eric Deluxe?
Oh, man. I'm riveted.
There you heard it right from Tim, right from an audio engineer himself. It is riveting to hear that Eric Deluxe will be joining us, and so many other famous celebrity people too. They'll be joining in the stream. So we know you can't go anywhere because of the pandemic. So go ahead and join us there Monday night at 8 p.m. Pacific. Sorry it's a little bit late for you folks in the Midwest or on the East Coast, but trust me, it'll be worth it. It'll be a ton of fun. Bring the people within your household, just within your household, together, and go ahead and watch it. It's on the internet, so you can stream those things. Put it up on your TV, pull it up on your computer. It doesn't matter where it is. But again, ton of giveaways. We're gonna have a giveaway with Manscaped going on. With Glamnetics, you guys heard their founder on the other day, the magnetic eyelashes. We'll be doing a giveaway with them. We'll also be doing a giveaway with the Menlo Club, of course, everybody's favorite men's subscription fashion box. We also have giveaways, group chat merch, and so much more. So there's going to be a ton of chances for different giveaways. The entertainment's going to be there. It'll be amazing. Please mark your calendars and join us for that. We appreciate all the support there. And as well, the group chat merch is, again, still live for a short amount of time. We're going to have to cut it off soon because the holidays are around the corner, and we want to make sure you guys get it in time for the holiday season. Don't miss out. Head over to themenlohouse.com. And you're going to search over there in the brands. You're going to find group chat. And go ahead and grab yourself any one of the 2 sweatshirts or 2 tees that we have. They are half off what we had originally planned to have them. Why? Because D is insane, and he wanted to get this in as many people's hands as possible. So our collab, our premium group chat university collab with Melrose Place is over there. Don't miss out. And if you've purchased already, we thank you very much for the support and hope you enjoy them. I have finally gotten mine. It's great. I love it. Tim, you love yours?
Love mine.
Tim loves his. That's all you need to know. Okay. Thank you, guys. That does it for me. We're going to get you back into today's episode of Group Chat. Adios.
Wow, that was very informational.
You know when you can tell someone is really smart when, forget obviously his super successful background, it's being able to explain complex topics in a way that anyone can understand. Yeah. That's a sign of a very smart person.
And I think his temperament also instills like confidence because of the tone and how the way he delivered the message is like, it just gives you comfort. This is what you want in your leaders. Like, especially when you think about politics, and you think about presidents, it's so much of it is delivery. So much of it is the tone and the way the information is given to you that you feel like, okay, I trust and believe it. Like when he said on the 29th day, you're good.
Yeah, I mean,
I was like, wow.
Just hearing him for the last 45 minutes talk to us, it inspires so much confidence that we're almost out of this.
Yes.
But you listen to Garcetti or French Laundry, homie, you just fear.
Or French Montana.
French Montana. They might as well be the same person at this point. You just, all they do is instill fear that we're screwed, lecturing us, water's going to be shut off, electricity's going to shut off, your kids are never going back to school, it's all screwed. And even back in October, he inspired confidence in us when we had him on.
Yeah. And I think that's what I do believe the biggest mistake of the last 9 months by everybody, politics and businesses included, is the lack of communication to the public. It's been really bad on all fronts.
Yeah, he said fairly confidently, by spring, it's going to be widely available. Have you heard that once from anyone? Other than media, from our elected officials.
No. Well,
that are imposing these draconian measures, these just blunt instruments that just crater people's lives.
Yeah. No, but here's the problem is that there needs to be a world where we can, as a public government, partner with private people and give them the platform to give this information, right? Because like we're expecting our public officials to know this. They don't. Right. They're never going to know this. These people aren't, you're talking about the most brilliant people in the world.
Yeah, and the conversations that he's having in private are conversations that Garcetti and the health team of LA have no shot of even being a part of.
Exactly. And so instead of putting that pressure on the political figure should be smart enough and say, I'm going to go get my buddy Brent who knows this stuff. I'm going to make him the czar of COVID.
You know what the problem is? They're so selfish because they lose the shine. Yeah. It's like when Fauci became the star back in April.
Yeah.
Trump got pissed.
Yeah.
He sidelined him. Yeah. He's like, everyone's talking about Fauci. Fauci's a hero. Fauci's a hero. And Trump's like, I want to be the hero.
Yeah.
And I feel like someone like Garcetti, who clearly has national ambition, if he were to call Brent and deliver speeches weekly, bi-weekly, whatever it is, explaining the actual information in a digestible way, Garcetti doesn't look like the star.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you something. It actually doesn't matter if you're rich because you've made more money than you could ever imagine in the last 9 months because of the pandemic.
Who has?
Rich people.
Oh, rich people, yes.
And guess what? They've come out with a product for rich people.
For the richest of the rich.
This is for rich people. If you're poor, if you're not wearing this.
For rich by the rich.
For rich by rich. The FUBU for rich people. Apple has dropped AirPods Max over-the-ear headphones for a small price of $549. I love the balls of Apple. Global pandemic, global recession, hunger, people just dying endlessly. We're going to drop a $549 headphone and you're going to fucking buy it.
Genius.
They don't care.
They're catering to their market. Yeah. Everyone, and multiple chats of people that have benefited financially in the last 9 months, it was across the board, they're buying this product.
Of course I'm buying it. I'm not going to walk around with a poor-ass AirPod Pro. Jesus. You don't want to be the one guy without the over-the-ear, just the obnoxious headphones just walking around.
I said I'd buy it once travel's back because you can't run with that. You'll ruin it, right?
Who cares? It's just the look.
Where are you going?
You don't even have to have them working. Who cares if they break? That's richer.
You can wear them around your neck. It doesn't matter.
Well, that's how Beats by Dre used to be.
Yeah.
People just rock it as an accessory.
But here's the thing is the carrying case itself, so the headband acts as almost like a purse. It's like a purse shape.
So you think, I saw it, you think people are going to walk around with that purse?
Biggest flex.
Oh, big flex.
I mean, dude, what? That's not a purse. It's now transcending those lines and it's a gray space because it's like.
Apple is a fashion accessory.
Yes. Now
do you want to show up with Jordans or you want to come with the Curry 4s?
Come on, why do you think all these people are wearing these AirPods in their ears all day long? I know they only last 8 hours. You've got them in for like 24. Yeah, they're not working.
So if you were to, you walk down the street, 10 people have AirPods on. How many people are actually listening to something? Or on the phone?
Small amount.
I mean, only time I use my AirPods, if I'm home, I'll use it like 50-50. If no one's in the room with me, I'll just put it on speaker. I don't care. But if I'm walking around, I want it. Yep. Obviously, working out, walking, AirPods is very convenient.
I'd imagine at like a Trader Joe's where you just don't want to talk to anyone, nothing's going on in those headphones.
That's when I use it most. Like when I walk into a Lyft Uber. Like yesterday, mine was dead.
Yeah.
But I just didn't want to get into a conversation. I'll put both of them on.
Give him the one finger.
1 minute. I have this very important conference call that I'm not speaking on, just listening to. And now I get to wear this big ass headphones.
Now no one will actually talk to you.
You know, it's so funny because like if you look at technology, so we went from early days, 80s, 90s, cell phones were huge. Mm-hmm. And then it was about to get it as small as possible. The last 5 years, phones have gotten bigger.
Right.
Headphones years ago were big as possible. Then they became smaller, and then they became the AirPods. The tiniest, smallest thing, no wire, nothing. Now we're going back to, here's this big-ass headphone that you have to now carry around.
I mean...
Are you getting it, Pete?
Absolutely not. My Tesla's doing well, but not that well.
So it's $550 plus tax, plus I'm sure you have to buy a charger. There's no way it's coming all in, right?
Oh, yeah. No.
So does this mean Beats is done?
Maybe this is what Beats internally transitioned into.
But I would, for me as a consumer, maybe because of the demographic I fall into, if that product was Beats, I'd probably prefer it than Apple.
I feel like they've just kind of pop culture, Beats by Dre isn't relevant anymore. No. It used to be cool to rock your Beats. All the NBA guys were doing it. They're not doing it anymore.
But I'll tell you, it's because of the AirPods. The AirPods cannibalized
Beats by Dre headphones.
Over-the-ear headphones just became irrelevant.
So now
like no one's walking around with over-the-ear headphones anymore.
No.
Because
it's so inconvenient and it hurts your ears.
Well, not these new AirPod, Air Max, whatever they're called. They make your ears soft. They massage your ears.
You know, the thing is, everyone's going to get everything because you're going to need the AirPods Pro for function, and then you need the over-the-ear just to show off.
I have 2 AirPod Pros, 1 regular AirPod. Now I have to get this Max.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
So that's more than an iPhone you've spent on earbuds.
I've spent thousands of dollars on. Yeah, when it's all said and done.
You should. So you wear one of the original, the second generation, and then put the big ones
That's
over
a big
top.
flex.
So left,
how rich am I?
And then when somebody at the grocery store asks something, like lift it off, and be like, "What?" And they're like, "Whoa,
I'm on a conference call listening to a podcast while I listen to the new Little Baby."
Or you can, and then you can have the other ones around your neck playing other music.
And Apple, for the most part, never does this with no announcement. When they have these kind of big product launches, it's almost guaranteed to have an announcement. I think they're doing it because they actually understand the climate of the world in terms of
obnoxious.
Yeah, it's obnoxious and they don't want to spit. And most of the people are struggling. Yeah, we joke. There are rich people getting a lot richer, but that's a very small portion of the population. Majority of people are struggling.
So I did some basic monkey math. There's approximately 46 million millionaires in the world. Assume each
46 million millionaires. Okay.
Okay. Let's assume each one of those people buy one.
Yeah, I think you'd have like 80 to 90% hit rate.
Right? So that's, what is that, 20 billion?
Yeah, I mean...
Not bad.
Not bad. And then think about all the kids on Fairfax. You have to have the over-the-ear.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You can't be walking in, waiting in line at Supreme if you have...
regular AirPod Generation 1.
I mean, you're going to start seeing people out in public and be like, whoa. It was one thing. AirPods were still accessible at that $200 range, but these are like $600. That's some people's rent. You're just wearing on your ears.
That's true.
I mean, it's going to be, and sadly, it's not going to be the wealthiest people that buy this.
No,
it's going to be everyone else stretching. Because
if that stimulus comes out, Apple, it's going all to that.
Maybe they timed it with the stimulus because the price is very suspicious.
You know what the stimulus check is that's going to be for this round is $600.
TikTok, you can't be a TikToker without over the ear.
No, you know Charlie's going to be rocking them. You know everybody on there.
They're going to place it on all of them.
If you just place it on Charlie, that's another quick million sales.
Yeah, you quickly bankrupt a bunch of little kids.
Yes.
Watch this bankrupt.
Get your Apple stock ready. These headphones go.
Tim Apple, our resident expert. What are your thoughts from a zoom out perspective?
We're going up. We're going up, baby. We're going way up.
Fuck the poor, right?
As an Apple investor, I hope everyone buys a pair. I hope everyone loves them. As an audio engineer, I have so many reservations.
Why you don't think the quality is
headphones.
not going to be good?
Yeah, I mean, it's Apple. Like, it's just like Beats were bad. Apple hasn't come out with a pair of headphones that I think sounds
from
good.
Tim Apple.
Wow, as an investor.
Yeah, it's a shareholder.
Yeah. But like, I don't think people are buying them for the quality. Like, I think if people really want quality, they're going to, they're researching better brands. But I think if people buy the Apple headphones, you're right. It's for like the cloud. It's sort of for like I've got the Apple headphones. It's the Apple look. You're right. They're like an accessory brand.
That's great. I love it.
Yeah.
Did you see the features on them now? So it's same as the Pros and the first generation AirPods. So it's all touch. There's a dial up top for volume. And so it pretty much will work the same exact way. And it'll recognize on and off ear, super soft.
And I'm assuming it's connected to Siri as well.
Yes. Yep.
It's a powerful tool.
Yeah. I think the headphones are amazing because there's never been a product like the AirPods as far as the capability to bring them out and just put them in, and everything's connected. It starts right up.
Yeah.
And
AirPods genius.
Yes. And so you do that same thing now with over the ear. You're having that same experience, but over the ear.
Yeah.
With like Beats, you never did that. Bose, you can't do that. None of them connect, and none of them have that touch.
I'll tell you,
disability.
I hope the over the ear solves. I cannot jump rope in AirPods.
Really?
They fall out.
I can do everything in mine.
I can run.
I can play football right now.
With AirPods.
Yes.
The AirPod Pros.
No, AirPods.
Regular AirPods, I can't run 5 feet.
Yes.
AirPod Pro, I can run pretty long distance.
Yes.
Once I get very sweaty, it's useless.
Interesting.
I jump roped yesterday. I could not even get 20 jumps in without my AirPods falling out.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping the over-the-air solves it. Well,
we'll see.
Luxury.
You're gonna get them now.
Yeah, 100%.
We're gonna do a whole.
Yeah.
We'll do a whole.
They're
review.
Sweat on them.
Are they on sale for today?
You can buy them today.
Today, okay.
You
But
can
with those
place-
ships.
They're not on sale. Don't get it twisted.
they're definitely not. I'm like, you got a payment plan with that?
I'm sure they do.
Yeah, it's directly advertised. The payment plan of $91 a month or $549 for the total. I just saw it on Twitter. 100%.
It's 0% interest.
Yeah. I mean, and then you're gonna show these kids, they get this stimulus.
Yeah.
You're like, here's $600. Now you can start off $91 a month.
I like that. Good work, Apple.
Wait, just rated.
And continuing on the luxury conversation, luxury it's laughable how hot luxury is given what's going on in the world. Moncler, if you don't know Moncler, like the primo outerwear brand of the world, luxury brand, went and bought Stone Island for $1.4 billion. So two Italian brands that have been around for a long time. They're like, I think Stone Island is actually a family business. The brand started in 1982, and they have like really, really cool outerwear. And I mean, I think they make some of the coolest cargo pants out right now, and it's all over high fashion. They used high-tech fabrics. Just a really cool product. They have done phenomenal in this whole kind of environment, and I think the value of the company is 16 times 2020 EBITDA.
You know what's fascinating? I don't mean to jump to our next topic, but we might as well intertwine them.
Yeah.
The next topic is talking about Nikola. So Nikola is like a $17 billion company that has no product no one's ever heard of, that barely started. This business was started 38 years ago.
Yeah.
Clearly resonates with people on an emotional level, because when you buy expensive stuff, you buy it because you have affiliation with the brand. They spent 38 years building so much customer just loyalty and history, and they're a $1.4 billion company. In tech, that's considered you failed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and by the way, they did 68 million euros in profit last year, which, I mean,
it's just fascinating the way different industries are valued, because you would argue from a fashion perspective, 16 times forward current EBITDA, it's almost on the expensive side.
Yeah.
For apparel.
For apparel, it's expensive.
It's the expensive side.
Yeah.
And in tech,
there's no E though in tech.
No. And in tech, it's just, can you just prove year-over-year growth with traction?
Well, I think
and
the
you
problem
get there pretty
with,
quickly.
The biggest thing with tech is that, like, we've seen from a handful of companies that you can evolve into something bigger. That it's whatever your core business is today is not an indication of what you could be in the future. So you're betting on a founder that has big vision. The Nikola founder, has big vision. His big vision is to buy an expensive piece of property in Utah for $32 million. So I mean,
on a fraudulent company.
And the Stone Island family. Well, I mean, I can't even imagine the blood, sweat, and tears to go build that brand.
Right.
And then, like, I'm sure it's a huge moment. And Moncler is such a great brand too. They're both going to go, and I think it'll be an incredible marriage. And those are two like heritage luxury outerwear brands, and I think they'll all go on to do great things. The Nikola guy, dine and dash, like just off.
He's the Adam Newman type.
Yes. He's a con artist, and he is now buying a record-setting price for Utah real estate. $32.5 million, 2,600 acres, the River Bend Ranch, which includes a 16,000 square foot mansion.
And what tech has done to me mentally is that you just get caught up in these numbers that are just so outrageous. So when I saw Stone Island bought for $1.4 billion, I was like, oh, that's not that great. Because I was looking at Shopify stock, and they're a $140 billion company. Moderna is a $67 billion company that was created in 2011. And Zoom is what, 100-something billion?
Yeah.
And it literally just completely puts it out of whack of what $1 billion for acquisition really is, which 99.99% of companies will never even get close to.
No.
But these handful of tech companies has completely morphed the way I think about what is considered success.
Yeah, because we were looking at like some insurance companies yesterday, like, oh, that's only $5 billion? $5 billion. It's like,
but tech has really messed with my head.
No, and I think like you're also seeing where the wealth is going. It's going into these massive real estate purchases too.
Mm-hmm.
So this one is in Oakley, Utah, 25 minutes outside of Park City. So Trevor Milton decided to go to Utah and become the king.
Yeah.
And so this is a serious property. I'm curious to see what he does with it. I'm shocked that like, I'm curious to see if the community there welcomes him or not, because he's a con artist.
He is. I guess he has to be officially deemed as a con artist, because right now he's still
a founder.
Yes.
Another big piece of property news is Jared and Ivanka Trump went, well, I'm not calling him Kushner. He's a Trump at this point, Jared Trump. So they bought a house for $30 million. Sorry, they bought land, a waterfront lot, Indian Creek Island. Insane. $30 million. So they're going to build some gargantuan house. I'm really surprised they chose Miami, not Palm Beach.
Okay. Can you explain the difference? Because I actually didn't know. What type of people live in Palm Beach versus Miami?
Very wealthy.
So Palm Beach, from what I understand, is an hour above Fort Lauderdale. Fort Lauderdale is probably 45 minutes from Miami.
30 minutes.
30 minutes?
Yeah.
So it's almost 2 hours.
Yeah. Let's call it an hour and a half, 2 hours. I'm in traffic, whatever. And it's a lot of wealth, but it's definitely older. That's where Mar-a-Lago is.
Okay.
That's where the Donald likes to hang.
Mm-hmm.
That's where your Robert Krafts and all these guys have big ass houses. Jeffrey Epstein.
Well, these guys are younger.
They're younger.
The Trumps are a little younger. Kushner's what, 39, 38?
Yeah. And they've clearly not going back to New York City either, because they're definitely not welcome there.
I wonder how long that lasts. Like in 5 years, can Kushner show up to
Yankees
whatever
game?
The hot restaurant is and
Yankees game
on
the screen?
Yeah, and not get booed. I wonder how much time needs to lapse.
I think it's also what they do. Like if they are dead silent for the next couple of years, like George Bush, and they are like then reappear, they'll be completely fine. No one will care. But if they're stay in the public eye and continue to keep fighting, and then I think it's tough.
I feel like they'll disappear and just either go to jail if the Southern District in New York doesn't. I think the Southern District in New York is going to be relentless. I've been saying this for well over a year.
Yeah.
And if they avoid getting prosecuted for the crimes that they're going to come after them, I think they're going to get so rich.
Yeah.
Because think about all the global ties he built. Because Kushner was the one going globally.
Well, he knew
Saudi
what he was
Arabia,
doing.
UAE, just going to pockets of wealth that were going to be so valuable when they're out of office.
Yeah. All right. The last topic of the day. The Nielsen rating. The very famous...
It's the way networks market to advertisers how many people watch to set their rates.
And, back in the day, it was famous if you were a Nielsen family, they tracked what you watched, and that sample side determined how many viewers were tuning into a show and how they would sell advertising. So it's a very powerful tool that's been used in television. They're finally making the update to streaming, and they said by 2023, 2024, they may figure out how to include streaming data and TV data and tracking viewership. It's fucking asinine.
And if you're an advertiser basing your rates on Nielsen data, you are a moron.
You should be fired if you're Procter & Gamble, and that's how you're buying your rates.
Like, Nielsen, Housewives gets 6 million viewers.
Yeah. Like, come on. Like, you have to be. I'm so shocked that the advertisers in television are allowing this nonsense to continue.
I hope they're not. I mean, I hope they're using other metrics. Otherwise, they're a bunch of dummies.
Because they have digital.
My guess is the marketing department isn't at these companies.
But the marketing department falls under paid social, which is Facebook, which is Snapchat, TikTok advertising, where the data is clear. You get this many impressions, this many clicks. It's so you can attribute every little action to a cost. I don't see why in this era of, because now you could spend $1 billion a month on Facebook if you wanted to. You could spend it.
Yeah, of course.
So now that was the problem back in the day. We have $150 million ad budget. Where do we spend it? TV. But now digital, you could spend $150 million.
Well, that's also why so many of the big old companies get disrupted, is because they have lazy departments, meaning their marketing department's like, I need 1 million impressions. Great, you got me 1 million impressions. And the startups were like, hey, let's be more efficient on how we get the 1 million impressions and actually track different conversions. Because, I mean, there's a reason why so many companies in the last 10 years have come and just crushed the old guys, because if you actually look at the data a little differently and not rely on Nielsen, you can have better results.
Who is this guy?
Who the fuck cares?
Yeah. Interesting. All right. Well, that's really it. We have a couple things to talk about still, but those are the news topics. Anand has some, what is it? What do we call this? As seen on social?
Yeah, as seen on social. So James Harden, superstar for the Houston Rockets, most would say top 5 player in the NBA.
Wow.
Has decided to not show up to training camp. The Houston Rockets training camp has started, and he's basically demanding a trade. Fine, we're in this player empowerment era. Anthony Davis sat out till he got traded, and these things happen now. And it's just become part of the NBA. For good or for worse, who knows? But here's the problem. He's been seen on social all over the country partying. He was at Dre's in Vegas. He was at a strip club. He's been with Lil Baby all over, buying him
very nice gifts.
Yeah, cash.
Like at least $100,000 in cash, maybe more. A lot of Dior, a lot of everything.
How much does he like Lil Baby?
Lil Baby's hot. He's the hottest rapper out right now.
Maybe it's a rich guy thing and I don't understand it, but like to give somebody else that much.
Why? I mean, like,
but I know. Right,
what is James Harden make? $50 million a year?
Yeah, so I'm going to get to it. I'm going to get to it. So here's the problem, which I think the NBA season can be a complete, utter disaster. So last week, the NBA released a very detailed list of rules for the players. And if you're in violation, you have to go to immediate quarantine.
So there's no bubble?
No bubble.
Okay.
So I think it's going to be a disaster. Because if James Harden is a reflection on how NBA players plan to live during this season, it's going to spiral pretty quickly. You can't have gatherings of more than like 8 to 10 people indoors. And Harden was everywhere, no mask, indoors, partying, putting on his own social, putting on everyone else's social. And is he a health risk even if he decides to show up to camp?
Yeah.
Like, will the Rockets even let him? I mean, is he going to quarantine? Will he listen to a quarantine? And it brings me to the larger point, which I think the NBA specifically is going to have a big problem is I'm all for the players making all this money, right? And because the owners are making billions, these guys should be making hundreds of millions. No issue there. But I think what we're seeing is that they've made so much money that they actually don't care.
Yeah,
he makes $40 million in salary. My guess is he's at least $30 million in endorsements. His shoe deal's got to be $20 to $30 million a year. Yeah. And then what other checks he's picking up. So we're talking at a low end $70 million a year. He's like, I'm not showing up to camp.
Here's a little baby. Here's a nice little gift for you.
And you're gonna have people that don't know how to handle, kind of like think bigger picture. Like, hey, I signed a contract. I'm getting paid $40 million. I'll show up. I'll still demand a trade, but I'm going to at least play. And the sitting out thing, it's going to piss off fans.
Yeah.
Because think about it, if you rooted for him his entire career, you're going to hate him.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. 100%.
And it's going to get fans to disengage from the game.
Yeah.
If your stars are just jumping team to team, like how can you be like a Kevin Durant fan when he just, every time he unhappy, he just leaves?
Yeah. I mean, I think I agree with that. I think once things normalize, I think it will also. It is exciting though seeing the players go from team to team because it does create. Because then it becomes very lopsided, where it's like in the NFL, it's the same freaking. Without the Kansas City Chiefs, it's literally the same damn teams every year.
But then you have Kyrie Irving, who probably makes the same with his shoe deal, $60 to $70 million plus his playing salary, and he said, "I'm not talking to the media all year."
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you make 60 to 70 million and you don't have to, but you're not going to enhance the game. Like LeBron did so much for always, he obviously took care of his own interests, but he had the NBA in mind and growing the game and being like a true ambassador. And I think the younger guys just don't have it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think they are being selfish, and it will reflect in the popularity of the sport.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. My as seen on social is also sports related. It's Michigan, Ohio State. So if you're a college football fan, this is like always one of the big games of the year.
Sure.
It is canceled. And probably for the best. Michigan sucks. They're probably the worst college football team I've ever seen. I mean, USC is just riding up the score every week.
4-0. We play UCLA this week.
Yeah, probably kill UCLA, pummel them to the ground. Ohio State would have won by 70 because every time I turn on the TV, Michigan is losing.
I think the line was like plus 20 or plus 30 Ohio State. I would have hammered that.
So, I mean, to me, the winner of the week already is Michigan. They don't have to go get publicly humiliated by their arch rival. And I've gone to a game at Ohio State. I went to USC Ohio State, where Ohio State was the number 1 team in the country. USC was ranked, but not that good. Matt Barkley was a true freshman. He went and beat them on the last drive of the game. And Brian Toll and I had to walk out of the stadium.
Oh, boy.
And we weren't wearing USC stuff, but we looked not
out of place.
I think Brian had a Dodger hat.
And
that gave it away.
He got called a lot of slurs that you're not allowed to say on
not
public.
2020.
But they do love them in Ohio.
I remember we got so scared. We just hopped on a bus.
Yeah.
Like a public bus. And then we just finally called a taxi from wherever we were.
Ohio State people are not fun. Like, Wisconsin has played them multiple years in a row when I was in college at the Big Ten Championship. And post game, I mean, they had won all 3 times, but it was like post game, it got testy. We had to like get out of there like right away because there was a couple of years where like fights started breaking out, people started getting mad, and I'm white.
Yeah,
like I'm the.
There's all it is other white people.
Yeah, right, which makes it even worse. So, yeah.
All right, so that was my ass on social. What do we have any shout outs?
Or Pete, do you have a scene on social?
No, I just have, actually I do have 2 things. So James Harden has arrived in Houston and is tested in accordance with the NBA's protocol today, as reported by Mr. Woj. But they don't know anything more than that. So he's just simply following protocol right now.
Maybe little baby has a party in Houston yet to get back for.
And the other one was,
how rich would you have to be to just dole out a few $100,000 to a rapper that I'm sure they're like fake friends? It's not like they're childhood friends.
The little baby's hot. He's very hot. He's the man right now. So it's just a good culture look.
But I get it for another rapper to do it because you got to stay hot. Like,
but everyone's talking about James Harden and Lil Baby. That he's top of.
I know, but James Harden earns $70 million a year playing hoops.
Yeah.
How much more money can he make by being culturally relevant?
But it's just more for ego. It's dope to be. I would do that for Lil Baby. If I was getting $70 million a year,
Lil Baby right now. If you made $70 million, you weren't a basketball player.
I was just D, the Indian 40-year-old, I would fly to Lil Baby's birthday and give him $200,000 cash and something just to be on his Instagram.
Okay,
I would do it all day.
There you go,
Lil Baby. What do you want next year?
Lil Baby,
maybe I'll have a good year. All right. Do we have any shout outs? We don't have any shout outs, do we?
Yeah, we do. Actually. I'll start with Melvin Adam. He's from Upland, California. Just wanted to give a shout out to himself.
Okay. Shout out to you, Melvin.
Shout out to yourself. Because I know no one else would. LOL. It's my birthday this Friday, so I just wanted to get a quick shout out. I love you guys. Great energy to the pod. I was a fan of Short Story Long, R.I.P. Even he said that. But I'm glad this stayed alive. I listened to every episode since February 2019. Go Cathy's.
Nice. Shout out to you, Melvin. Happy birthday.
We also have another shout out from Just Jackson. So Jackson with the 0 at gmail.com. He's from
Ohio.
Out
his email?
Yeah. So if anybody wants to email him and maybe get his last name for us, Jackson with the 0 at gmail.com. Shout out. He wants to know what advice you guys have for someone who has a difficult time getting out of the comfort zone and meeting new people. That's not really shout out. It's just a question.
That's a question.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
a good
It's
question.
a good question.
Yeah.
You know, the thing that I learned at a very young age when I was a shy person, I went to places by myself.
Mhm.
Obviously, given the pandemic, I don't know where he lives.
Ohio.
So is where things open there or?
I don't know that answer.
Yeah. So let's assume when
Sure.
the society reopens, when you go places by yourself, you adapt, and because you don't want to be sitting there talking to nobody.
Yeah.
So you end up going up to people and talking. And when I was in college, I started going to events by myself,
Yeah.
and then I got very comfortable as an adult, where I would go to places completely by myself. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, who are you with? I'm like, I'm by myself. Like, whatever. It's not a big deal. And that gave me the comfort to like confidence to just have a conversation with anyone, because I had spoken to so many people being by myself. When you're with your friends, you have a crutch, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it's important as a young person, you do this, because as an older person, meaning in your 30s, 40s, you already tend to become more and more conservative in the way you do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea of just being this free spirit that can talk to anyone is not happening at 38 years old.
Right.
But like when you're 21 or 25, it's very easy to go do those things. And I think I see it when people used to show up to Run Club by themselves versus coming with a friend. You're forced to just
Talk to somebody.
talk to somebody.
And keep your phone in your pocket.
Yeah.
Don't take your phone out and get nervous. And I think the biggest advice I'd give is that it's okay to strike up conversation with people, because as long as you're nice, what's the worst that could happen?
Yeah.
There's nothing. If you're mean, yeah, that's a different story. But as long as you're nice, respectful, polite,
Right.
there's zero downside.
Yeah.
Maybe you have an awkward 5 minutes, you move on to the next person.
Exactly. And I think, especially because I traveled so much in my early 20s by myself, and I would have to sit at like some shit hotel bar by myself talking to some like old dude.
Yeah.
And that made me like a better, I don't know, like a salesperson.
Yeah, communicator.
A better communicator. Like there's not a scenario that I can be put in where I'll be uncomfortable
Right.
socially.
I think it's too is a crutch of not only cell phones, your friends, but being around people you know, or that could, like, if you can go into an environment and try to experiment and approach different people, have conversations, but people you might never meet again, like that's the best way too as well. I think.
Yeah.
Because then once you know people, then you get nervous. How are they going to think about me? You overthink it.
Yeah.
But if you can go to an environment where you don't know somebody and you can just approach by yourself, you win.
Yeah.
I have a shout out / information share, which I think is very relevant to a topic we talked about a few weeks ago about UPS and FedEx and not having enough capacity, and Amazon just like eating everyone's lunch. So Bernie Escobedo, who is a delivery driver / truck driver that has been a longtime listener to the pod, broke it all down to me.
Great.
Now I finally understand what's going on.
Let's hear it, Bernie.
So UPS and FedEx are tied up in delivery unions. So the drivers are part of a union. So if you want to go work as a driver for UPS or FedEx, you're forced to go in the warehouse and work for a number of years until you're given a shot to be a delivery driver.
Oh my God. Get the fuck out of here.
And Amazon lets you be a driver right away as long as you fit
Yeah,
whatever
what does one have to do with the other?
And UPS and FedEx are paying significantly higher than Amazon because they require all that
Well, it's
prerequisite unions. And UPS and FedEx pay around $25 to $32 an hour, and Amazon pays about $15 an hour
For a driver?
for a driver.
Fuck.
So UPS and FedEx better figure their shit out, because Amazon's just going to come. I mean, right there. Why do you think they have capacity? They don't even allow it.
Yeah. Well, so here comes a age-old dilemma. Like, at least UPS and FedEx are paying living wages, right? That's the power of what a union is, which is why I like, as much as free spirit as I am, what I've seen labor unions do for the average person in this country is quite powerful. $32 and $15 an hour is night and day. It's a night and day life.
Agree, but herein lies the issue. If you require years in the warehouse before you're able to drive, you're limiting the people that can even earn that $15 an hour wage. If you just don't let them, if Amazon doesn't increase your pay for the next 10 years, that's a different story.
Yeah, if they're paying
but Amazon's letting you get a job right away.
Yeah.
You want to be a driver, you can be a driver with Amazon. You want to be a driver for FedEx or UPS, you can't.
Yeah. Well, you can. You just have to be in the warehouse.
Yeah, but you're in the warehouse probably making $15 an hour.
Yeah.
So the starting salary is the same.
Yeah. But my question is does Amazon have a pathway to raise wages?
That is a question for Mr. Bezos.
Yeah.
I have to imagine.
That's what you imagine? I don't imagine that. I don't think it's in his best interest. Because I think they hired like 1 million people this year.
Yeah, something crazy.
Like 1 million. There's not 1 million people getting the vaccine this month. And he hired 1 million people.
Probably in his own wage too.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane.
My dad's a UPS driver.
Okay.
Or he is now. It's like a different sector he's worked in, but that was a huge thing. He tried for like literally 3 or 4 years to get it because it is so like one comes open, everybody goes after it. It's cutthroat. There's people who will like work against you that will work for other people because it is so sought after.
Well, that's a big problem. Then that's a huge opportunity for Amazon.
Yeah,
and not
absolutely.
And how stupid is it from UPS corporate when you can't even meet the demand?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
So I'm telling you, this is the dilemma of the labor union. I'm guaranteeing you, the labor union is the reason why they get paid those wages when they driver. The labor union is also the reason why they make it so fucking painful to become a driver.
And more people will be employed if you got rid of the hoops and hurdles.
Yeah. Their argument is we'd rather have less people employed but livable wages.
And then other people are just homeless?
What? Are there those people?
Yeah.
I mean, no, they work for Amazon.
That's true.
Because it's an unfair advantage. If there's and Amazon will do contract work. I mean, the person delivering my Amazon package is an enterprise rent-a-van. They're not even an Amazon van anymore.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting anyone.
But in an era of millions of people looking for work, I don't think the UPS FedEx model is the right one.
I mean,
do you know how many millions of people would want to drive for $15 an hour if they could find the job? A lot.
I don't know.
Think about every waiter, busboy that lost their job.
I mean, I'd rather be a delivery Amazon person than a Uber driver or Postmates. Way better.
Right. And I think, Pete, maybe you know this answer. Is it very strict once you have a job? Because the way UPS and FedEx drivers
What do you mean?
are hustling, like, do they have a certain number of packages that they hit?
Yeah.
It's crazy,
incredibly,
right?
That was the majority of it was there are very strict times. You have to be efficient. If you don't meet those, they literally like you don't get the job.
So they have the Amazon strictness in the workplace without the Amazon innovation or ability to meet demand.
Insane.
It's like cutthroat. It's like if you're a minute behind, like unacceptable.
Right.
It's crazy.
All
Great
right.
insurance though.
Yeah, I mean,
Really
that's
fantastic.
the benefit of the labor union.
Yeah.
The labor union actually does protect its employees, but they are in the way of the disruptive industries. All right. That was a great episode.
Great episode.
Kept it under 5 hours.
Under 5 hours, 5 hour energies. All right. What are we doing? Thursday, next episode?
We'll see you guys Thursday.
See you Thursday. Ciao.
Ciao.